This video is sponsored by Squarespace. Yo, what's good YouTube? It's boardzy, and this is going to be the first ever gaming keyboard tier list. Yes, moving on from just mice and mousepad tier list to keyboards as well. And I think that this is going to be the most honest, just full of facts keyboard tier list out there. It doesn't seem like there are many out there. And yeah, without further ado, gonna get right into the list with the Bugha Keyboard. And make sure to like and subscribe for more tier lists in the future. So the Bugha Keyboard is, words really can't describe how large it is. It's like a battleship almost. It uses membrane switches and it's sold for like $10 at Five Below. It's garbage. It's absolutely a terrible keyboard, so it's going to be in the mid category. Next up are Ducky Keyboards, and I don't care if I get hate for this, but Ducky Keyboards are extremely overrated. I tried the Wooting Mini in the past, I don't know what year it was, like 2019, when everybody fucking owned one because Tfue was using it, and then I just tried the 3SF recently, which is a newer version. It's a 65%. This one literally sucks. Like, for gaming, it has firmware issues. Sometimes if you're holding W and A, both keys will let go despite the fact that you are pressing both of them, and the firmware that supposedly fixes this, press the start button and it just does not update. So it's full of issues, and I don't know, Ducky Keyboards are just popular because they are popular, not any aspects that really make them good for gaming. You could be like the layout, but there's a million fucking 60% keyboards. The 3SF is hot swap, so switch selections limitless. If you treat this more like a custom keyboard, I mean, you'd probably have a better experience. But yeah, sort of like overrated for gaming. You know, it is not overrated for gaming, and it is indeed a based keyboard. The Steelseries Apex Pro. I've been using this for around 2 years now. It's insane. Like, I've just tried all of these keyboards, with the exception of a few, and nothing comes close to this from Steelseries. And Steelseries is a brand where I don't like a single other one of their products, but they've made the greatest keyboard of all time. And while that is subjective, it's at the end of the day, you know, it's technically true. The reason the Apex Pro is so good, in my opinion, is due to the switches, not the switches alone, but the OmniPoint switches with adjustable actuation all the way down to 0.4 millimeters. In terms of like big brand keyboards, it's in a league of its own, even compared to Razer's stuff with opticals and analog switches. The response on the Apex Pro just feels the fastest in-game. There's a reason 90% or whatever of Fortnite pros are using this keyboard. And of course, there are some detractors to the Apex Pro. People complain that there is no detachable USB-C cable. And yeah, the cable is very thick and you can't remove it. But it doesn't matter when you only have one keyboard on your desk because you own the perfect keyboard. You don't have to waste thousands of dollars swapping between keyboards when you own the GOAT. So that's one way to look at it. The ABS keycaps are honestly fine. You're better off not replacing them. Because a lot of aftermarket keycaps just fuck with the feel. Like, they're compatible, but they don't really feel the same, if you get what I'm getting at. But yeah, if you want the best keyboard for games, realistically, if you play anything besides Fortnite, watching this video is a waste of time. Just fucking get anything besides the Bugha Keyboard and you're chilling. But yeah, I don't know. Apex Pro, just so good. God bless it. Next up is going to be the Apex 7, which is just a Apex Pro without the OmniPoint switches. So it's fine. It has like Gateron red switches, I think. I don't know if there's a clicky or tactile option available. And yeah, that's really all I got to say about it. It's just way more average than the Apex Pro. Also, the Apex Pro says my name on it on the OLED screen. Like, come on, man, come on. Next up, we have the Mountain Everest Max. Mountain Everest. That's what the keyboard's called. That's kind of sick. Unfortunately, it's just like, once again, very average. It's interesting, though. It has this magnetic, like, macro pad and numpad. It's like a Stream Deck, but also a keyboard. And when I say a keyboard's average, I just mean it is going to feel like any other keyboard with linear switches that you've felt. This has 3-pin hot swap, so it's harder. You're going to have to like clip switch pins, and who the fuck is doing that? That's for the custom keyboard people. And out of the box, I mean, it's an interesting product. It has a ton of features. Like, check out their website if you're interested. But it was nothing I actually wanted to use. But hey, I appreciate them sending it out to me. You know what I'm saying? Now we have the GK, RK, SK, probably fucking any 2-letter combination. 61, this is just the OEM 60% keyboard. And I mean, it's all right for gaming. I mean, you could argue it into the B tier. Like, some people really take love to modding this keyboard out, but out of the box, It's going to feel like a worse version of the Razer Huntsman Mini, I'd say. I think they generally have plastic cases. I had the GK61 with yellow opticals, and it felt great in game, even if it is on 125 hertz polling rate. I don't know if it's true or not, but there are some theories about that. But yeah, it's completely usable. And a solid budget option, but yeah, like high C tier, I'd say. Next up, the glorious GMMK Pro. I know Glorious has other keyboards too, like the standard GMMK whatever. It's not good. I know they originally had latency issues. I'm not sure if they fixed those, but of course I bought the keyboard early, so when I got it, it just felt like shit. And you don't want to spend 170 or however much it costs on a bare bones kit. You could just buy an Apex Pro at that point. That's the way I look at it. You can buy an Apex Pro or you can buy some shit with no keycaps or switches. What's more economical? I'm just keeping it real, keeping it economical. Now we have the Huntsman Mini Analog, which is actually a keyboard I'm using right now. Razer sent it out to me, review coming soon. And surprisingly, for a keyboard with analog switches, I am just not a fan of it. You know what I am a fan of, though? The sponsor of this video, Squarespace, an all-in-one platform that allows you to easily build an online presence and run your business. With fully fledged e-commerce, you can sell anything, whether that be physical or virtual goods, services, and even members-only content. Squarespace has it all with hundreds of pre-made templates to help streamline the process. Squarespace provides website analytics that allow you to understand your audience by showing page views, traffic sources, geography, and more, along with detailed commerce analytics for your business. The best part is that Squarespace websites come with built-in tools to take the guesswork out of SEO, and all websites are optimized for viewing on any device. If that sounds good, head to squarespace.com for a 14-day trial, and once you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/boardzy and use code boardzy for 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. Thanks again to Squarespace for sponsoring this video. Back to the Huntsman Mini Analog. In my first few days of using it, I found it to be pretty underwhelming. It has adjustable actuation point, but the lowest actuation is 1.5 millimeters, and that is just not impressive compared to the Apex Pro, which is as low as 0.4 millimeters, and the Wooting 2 HE, which I'll get into later, which can go as low as 0.1. So you get the analog switch capabilities, but the adjustable actuation isn't all that special, and the switches themselves are very heavy compared to something like OmniPoints. So if you're looking for the fastest feeling input, I would definitely recommend just the standard Huntsman Mini with linear switches. It's much cheaper as well. The analog version is $160, I believe. So unless you have a use case for the analog switches, I would recommend just the standard version. The Huntsman Mini is on some crazy sales, and the price to performance ratio on it, it's the best budget keyboard. I don't like the way the linear switches feel. They're very mushy, and they have like so much sound dampening shit added that they really just didn't need. Originally, the Huntsman Tournament Edition was too loud. God forbid the keyboard be loud. So then they just like made them mushy as hell, but they're still extremely fast. And yeah, I feel like everybody knows that the Razer optical switches are extremely fast and just high performance in general. And there just aren't many keyboards at $90 that are going to offer as good performance. I don't think it's perfect, but yeah, pretty sick. The Huntsman V2 TKL, I'm going to put this in the base tier. It has 8K hertz polling rate, same exact switches as the Huntsman Mini and the TKL frame, obviously. 8K hertz for keyboards is not really significant. I hate to break it to you. I don't think I could personally notice the difference in a blind test between 1K hertz and 8K. But you know, it's still there. It is technically lower latency, and I think that it's a solid keyboard. Still not as good as the Apex Pro. I prefer the smoothness and the lightness of the OmniPoint switches and just like the media controls, because Razer doesn't have that, and it's still pretty fucking pricey. Now's the HyperX full-size keyboard, I swear. This is like a top-tier sponsored keyboard. I don't know. I kind of want to put it in C, but realistically, it's probably B tier. Yeah, I don't know. HyperX's keyboard, give it up for them. It's probably cheap now because it's been out for like 6 years. Now the Corsair K65 Mini. I was so annoyed when I bought this thing because K65, you think it's a 65%. No, it's a 60%. That's just, it was infuriating. This spacebar, God, I need to put a high quality picture up. It's the stupidest thing ever. And the switches, it was cherry speed silver or something, just nothing impressive, super scratchy. And yeah, that it was just an unimpressive keyboard, definitely solid for gaming, but I would get a Huntsman Mini over it 100%. Now the Corsair K95, this is the wrong one. I meant to put the K100. Doesn't really matter because I've used neither, but the K100 just seems like an insane keyboard, just packed with features. It has like so much shit on it. I know it's one of Random Frank P's favorite keyboards. The K100 looks really good on paper. It has Corsair's own optical switches, 8K hertz polling rate. It's kind of huge and expensive as well, so I wouldn't really recommend it, but I haven't tried it to really know, I guess. Next up is a Redragon keyboard, not sure the exact model, and I have not actually owned one of these yet again, but I've tried this one a few times at Micro Center, and it's just not a high quality product that really, it doesn't give you much confidence in the build or just really anything. It uses cheap Udamu switches, and wow, it is, I just can't say a positive thing about it. If you own a Redragon keyboard and you have the means to get away from it, I would recommend doing so. And yeah, if you have a Redragon keyboard, don't fret. Everybody starts somewhere. For me, I started with the N Pro 2, which is probably just a C-tier keyboard. I don't know, I paid like $90. It's an all-plastic case. You get some stupid-looking extra keycaps that are like Legos. Wow, I think I bought this off of a Brandon Taylor review. Truly a nostalgic moment, but an average keyboard. Next up is the HyperX Alloy Origin 60%, which I'm going to throw in the A tier. Definitely one of the better 60% out there. HyperX's red linear switches are recolored JWK linears, which are some of the smoothest stock linears. They might even be pre-lubed. I know a lot of top OSU players use this, and it's just a great keyboard regardless of the game you play. Pretty cheap on sales, and they made a 65% version too. The Alloy 60% is basically what Ducky's 60% keyboard should be like, but they fall short of actually being. And at $90, the current price it's at, compared to the Huntsman Mini, it's going to come down to whether you want a better typing experience and smoother feeling switches with the Alloy 60, or the just fully lowest latency with the optical switches, and in my opinion, worse switch feel and a worse typing experience. But at the end of the day, both are amazing keyboards in that hashtag A tier. Next up, the Fnatic Streak65, another keyboard going in the A tier. It has low profile switches that are Fnatic's own switches, PBT keycaps, and just overall a high quality feel on a low profile keyboard. The input feels great, the switches are fast, nothing insane, the actuation's 1.2 millimeters, I believe. So Streak65 is something I can definitely recommend if you want a 65% keyboard with fast switches and a good typing experience as well. Pretty premium like presentation too. Razer Blackwidow V3, this is a keyboard that I got when it released because of reviews I saw. Never made any content with it, then returned it to Amazon. It has its place. It's probably one of the better wireless keyboards that I am aware of. And it has the Razer yellow linear switches and also their clickies, I believe. I got the linear ones. They kind of feel like a dampened cherry speed switch. So they're fast feeling, but just not as good as Razer's opticals, but it's still a solid option if you really want the 65% layout. Next up is the Roccat Vulcan Pro, which I'm going to put in the B tier as well. I kind of just see this as a worse Apex Pro. As Rockets, I think they call them Titan optical switches, and they have a 1.4 millimeter actuation point as opposed to the 0.4 millimeters on the Apex Pro. I believe these are low profile switches, and yeah, I just don't see a point in spending $160 on the Vulcan Pro when you can get Razer keyboards which are faster for cheaper, or spend a bit more and like $20 more and get the Apex Pro, which is going to be your endgame keyboard if you think the Vulcan Pro could work for you. Next up is going to be the G Pro X, I think it's called, from Logitech. That is their like flagship keyboard, which I have once again never tried. I also have not tried the G915, but that is Rocket Jump Ninja's keyboard, so I can only imagine that it is based, it's wireless as well and low profile. I know a lot of people swear by those switches. I was literally going to buy one, but the linear variant has been out of stock for weeks, and it's pretty expensive. It's unfortunate that the only Logitech keyboard I've actually tried, the G413 with the Roamer G tactile switches, is not on this list. And I hated that keyboard so much, it kind of just turned me off from Logitech keyboards. I'm sure they make quality stuff. I'll definitely give it a try. Unfortunate that 4 of the keyboards on this list I haven't really used, but hey, if you're judging me, make your own list. That's what I say. Now we have arguably the best, saving it for nearly last. The Wooting Two HE is an insane keyboard in terms of features. It uses Hall effect switches produced by Gateron like the Apex Pro, but it has even more customization going down all the way down to 0.1 millimeters. Has a unique rapid trigger feature. You can just look at these GIFs they have. It explains it really well, honestly. And this keyboard is just built for low latency and speed. It is the perfect latency schizo keyboard, but the unfortunate aspect is that it is full size. They are making a 60% version soon as well, which is great because that will be better than full size. So even though the tech in this keyboard is really superior to anything else, it is the full size layout that keeps me from using it over the Apex Pro. Also, Omni points are a bit faster and just lighter feeling than the lacquer switches. The spring's heavier on the lacquers. Doesn't make a huge difference. I was able to get used to it, but the Apex Pro is just still so good, but the Wooting 60% is something that could be sick. The switches have analog input capabilities as well, which is what Wooting was originally known for. But yeah, definitely a based keyboard company in general. And now last but not least, the Razer Tartarus. I think that's how you pronounce it. It is like a keypad, but it also has a scroll wheel and a joystick on it. And it is just one of the lowest quality things I've just ever used. I got it as a joke, basically, and I didn't realize that it had membrane switches in it. Like, why would they cheap out in that aspect? It's so crazy to me. It's kind of cheap, but wow, even buying it like as a gag item, it just wasn't hitting. So that is going to be all for the keyboard tier list. First ever keyboard tier list. I strongly agree with my own opinions. I zoomed in a bit more, and I feel like the only thing that could make this tier list better would be more keyboards. So definitely let me know any keyboards I missed so I can try them out and add them to the next keyboard tier list, whenever that may be. But honestly, unless they have adjustable actuation, Hall effect, or optical switches, it's going to be hard to get into the base tier because these are just so good already. There's also Final Keyboard coming soon. God, how could I forget about that? Final Mouse's keyboard that's going to change the industry forever. Or so they say. I mean, I don't know. But yeah, that's going to be all for this tier list. If you enjoyed, as always, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Let me know what you think, and peace.